Hello, and welcome back, my friends. I am Preacher. These are the pews, and today we have new Nintendo Switch news. Well, more of an update. We're still in the fallout of the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal, which has not been the insta success I think a lot of us expected it to be. I feel the reveal itself went well. People resonated with the games. They had Kirby Air Ride, a new Donkey Kong, new 3D Donkey Kong, the new Bloodborne-esque game. There was a lot of energy leaving the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal. But soon after, the Hindenburg began to fall because the pricing came out. And in all honesty, I don't know what people were expecting. To me, and let me be very clear on this up front, I am not buying a Nintendo Switch 2. I've never been a big Nintendo guy. I have no reason to own this thing. I have a ROG Ally, and it's like, and everything I ever wanted in a handheld. So I cannot imagine buying a Switch 2, at least with the price that it's at, the price of the games, as we'll soon talk about, and what they have to offer now. It's just not for me. And that's a key point that I want to point out here. Y'all might not know this about me, but I'm a grown ass man. You know what I mean? And I am not Nintendo's target audience, right? Not to say that as a grown ass man, you can't be Nintendo's target audience. If you grew up with Nintendo, my first console was a PS1, and I followed PlayStation, throughout the generations. I've had Nintendo consoles, but, I don't have that deep nostalgic tie to them. And I'm just not their target audience. You know what I mean? So that does, warrant bearing in mind as we go through this topic. But it was all really going Nintendo's way after the reveal initially, until the pricing. You know what I mean? It came out at $449 for the base console, and then a $500 bundle with Mario Kart World, the new Mario Kart, which looks good, by the way. And people didn't like that. I don't know. I don't know what people really expected, to be honest, because that seems pretty reasonable for where we're at now. You know what I mean? It wasn't going to come out and be $399. I don't know who expected that. That's not the times we're in. But moreover, so that didn't bother me. What really bothered me was Mario Kart World's pricing came out, and it is an $80 game, ladies and gentlemen. $80 for the base game. That is significant. That is significant. That is significant. That happened at the beginning of this generation. We moved from 60 to 70, and now before this generation has ended, make no mistake, I think some people think this is just Nintendo. I think some people think that this is where this is going to stop. 80 games are here now. $80 games are here now. This is happening. You know what I mean? It takes these larger publishers to move forward with something like that, and then the rest will follow in line. You think GTA is not going to be $80 now? Nintendo's charging $80 for fucking Mario Kart. You think bruh. This is very much just the beginning. This is very much just the beginning, and it is shocking that Nintendo's the one to do it, because they're always lauded for, having these games that stay within budget, because they don't hire these massive actors. They don't use all these high res textures. They don't have all the, their costs are low. So this is a straight greed move. Nobody needs it less than Nintendo. You know what I mean? Everybody else needs it way more. Nintendo did not need to bump Mario Kart up to $80. Least of all Mario Kart. They're doing that because they can. That's the only reason they are doing that. And to that point, a lot is developed over the weekend. Switch 2 was revealed sometime last week, and as we've moved through the weekend, a lot of people attributed all these prices to Nintendo, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is their target audience talking, because they're talking with their heart. Motherfuckers was finding any excuse they could for Nintendo to have these prices. It wasn't greed. They're just anticipating the tariffs. Oh, the tariffs, and the tariffs are going to be bad, no doubt. But let's call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? This had nothing to do with the tariffs, and today Doug Bowser came out and said as much. In this quote from The Verge, Doug Bowser, who is the CEO of Nintendo America, says that the tariffs did not directly impact the console's original price tag. Put the April 2nd announcement aside, any previous tariffs were not factored into the price itself, he explained, speaking to me the day after the event. So the price for the console, again, I still feel is reasonable, but it had nothing to do with the tariffs. A lot of people feel that it's not reasonable, and Nintendo is charging more than they should be. And they, place that blame on them anticipating the tariffs. A lot of people did that, and that was absolutely not the case. That's Doug Bowser there telling you himself. What I find way more egregious is this other quote from Doug Bowser. Let me bring that up. So Doug Bowser, continuing his cook-off, gives another banger quote. Here we go. Doug Bowser on Switch 2 game prices. What you see right there is variable pricing. We'll look at each game, really look at the development that's gone into the game, the breadth and depth of the gameplay, if you will, the durability over time, and the repeatability of gameplay experiences. Those are all factors, and there's many more that go into the consideration of what is the right price for the game. So I think that you can anticipate that there will be variable pricing, and we haven't yet set a benchmark. Baby, we can go higher. We can push them higher. Oh my God, man, I get riled up even reading that. So that is literally Doug Bowser telling you, right? And they said we haven't yet set a benchmark, but oh yes, you have, right? Mario Kart, again, game looks good, but it certainly don't look like Gran Turismo 7, right? Different levels of game here, different levels of investment from the parent company, but Nintendo is telling you that that is worth $80. So it doesn't have any, I'm just using Gran Turismo 7 as an example. Forza Motorsport, any of them. I'm just Dirt 5. Any of them are going to cost way more with the licensing, with the graphical fidelity, with the everything, with the online everything. They're going to cost way more to make than what Nintendo's making. But they're charging way less. Nintendo is doing that to prey on its own customers. And one thing I want to point out is this is not new. This is what Nintendo does. People get caught up in the weeds with this family-friendly thing that Nintendo does. And it's easy to buy into it at the end of a generation. Oh, Grandpa doesn't really discount his games. He's just old. Switch doesn't really have online. It's easy to make excuses for them at the end or towards the middle of a generation when they're already going. But this is who Nintendo is. Right? This is really what Nintendo does. Grandpa's really racist, bro. Classist, I should say. Grandpa's really classist. Like, he's charging up the ass. Grandpa Nintendo is charging up the ass. You know what I mean? And with that quote right there, he's telling you that these games are going to get more expensive. I have to say going to get more expensive. You don't say we haven't set a benchmark because you're not gonna tip the scales. Because here's the thing. No matter how much I talk about it, no matter how much anybody says anything about it, that Switch 2 is gonna sell crazy. That Switch 2 is gonna sell. It's gonna do numbers. And we're just along for the ride. That's what it feels like. We are just along for the ride of this thing, or I should say, well, it is everybody. You know what I mean? It is everybody. We're all affected by this as gamers because, like I'm saying, this is just the beginning. Everybody else is gonna do this, and I wonder how long it's gonna take. I do wonder because here's the first punch, right? GTA will be the second punch. Are we by 2026? $80 is just the price for a new game. If Nintendo doesn't try to push that ceiling, I think right now, gamers rise up. I think we really have to vote with our wallet on this one, man, because if we just keep buying the games, they're gonna just push it up and up and up. There's no set benchmark. And I think that's all we can really say on the subject for now. Ball is always in the gamer's court. If we rail against this, it'll change. But or maybe it won't. You know what I mean? Nintendo was on this course. They have their dedicated fan base. Don't really need our opinions, to be honest. But this is definitely an inflection point. And that's, what this channel is really about. Just the recording of different inflection points in the games industry, man. Things they just move, shake, and fluctuate constantly now. Over the last 18 months, things have been extremely fluid. And when everything cools down and is set in stone, I'm wondering what it'll look like. And one thing, don't be afraid to etch your opinions into the comment section below, whether you agree, disagree. But I want to hear what you think. That's gonna do it for me. And I will, as always, back here on the pews.